Sometimes providing power means lending a hand. So Entergy sponsors free tax return assistance and financial education to help our customers take control of their future. Together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
It's something no one wants to go through.
A father still struggling with the aftermath of his wife's addiction to opioids.
We seem very happy to be stuck at 50.
Could a scathing survey be the catalyst for change for women in Louisiana?
You have singing, you have drama, theater, you have orchestra.
And when you add Lisette Oropesa, you have it all. Hi everyone, I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, a check on some of the other headlines making news across Louisiana. Local levee districts are now enforcing their authority as needed during a state of emergency declared last week by Governor John Bel Edwards. He issued the emergency a week ago because of dangerous flood conditions on the Mississippi River and other waterways. CPRA Chairman Chip Klein is urging people not to drive any type of vehicle on levees unless it is officially necessary. Klein warns the height and flow of the river increases the danger should someone accidentally fall in. Louisiana will be part of a national pilot project that rates the quality of the state's addiction treatment programs. We join Massachusetts and New York in the partnership. The State Office of Behavioral Health will set the standardized rating system over 24 months. If the program is successful, the rating system will be launched nationwide. ExxonMobil is moving ahead with a more than $500 million expansion of its polyolefins plant in North Baton Rouge. It's the company's largest local capital project in nearly a decade. The Advocate newspaper reports construction will begin this year. It's expected to add 45 permanent jobs and support 600 temporary construction jobs. St. James Parish will become home to another major industrial plant. Praxair will build a $250 million world-scale hydrogen plant, one of the largest in the U.S. Operations at the plant are expected to begin in 2021. A big get for Lafayette's economy with the naming of a Swiss company to assemble helicopters. The Copter Group will lease the space at Lafayette Regional Airport that was home to Bell Helicopter until it closed last August. A total of about 270 jobs will be created, 120 of them directly. A welcoming ceremony is set for Saturday afternoon at Lafayette Airport. A $12 billion slip expansion project at Port Fourchon is now complete. The Houma Courier reports the project added almost 1,700 feet of bulkhead at Slip C, adding 1/3 of a mile of waterfront property for new tenants. The port serves 90% of offshore deepwater oil and gas operations. And news from LSU now. Men's basketball coach Will Wade suspended indefinitely today after reports that FBI wiretaps intercepted phone calls between Wade and an aspiring business manager. LSU currently ranked 10th in the country right now. A victory Saturday night against Vanderbilt gives the Tigers the SEC championship. WalletHub is a 6-year-old personal finance website that caught on when they started rating things like best credit cards and best car loans. They expanded to stuff like best cities for singles or states for seniors, and they captured an audience. Well, this week came the best and worst states for women. And for Louisiana, the things were sadly typical. 3 women I spoke with forever battle that status quo. With us, Representative Pat Smith from Baton Rouge, a political force at the Capitol for now 11 years. Melissa Flournoy, formerly of the legislature and now with Louisiana Progress. And Keisha Moore, who is a nurse, administrator, instructor at River Parishes Community College in Gonzales. Thanks so much for being with us. I want to tell you the methodology used by WalletHub here to find out who got the equal treatment, best and worst states for women in the U.S. 3 key dimensions: workplace environment, education and health, political empowerment. When I hear those 3, I automatically think Louisiana's in trouble. Pat?
Definitely in trouble. We are looking at the political empowerment for sure. We only have 14% of women serving in the legislature. We're third in the country, third lowest in the country. And there was a time when there were more.
And on this survey, Louisiana rates last in political empowerment for women.
Yes, and it's unfortunate that that happens because women don't feel that they have a voice in the legislature, and that's unfair.
Do you find in your classrooms as you teach that you try to get that voice out?
Absolutely. We are always trying to empower our nursing students and our medical assisting students to get out there and try to get involved in the community and get more action involved and get to voting.
Right.
That's
And
important.
Melissa, you are all about civil rights.
Well, I'm all about getting people to be involved and care about the political process. I mean, when I was elected to the legislature in 1991, there were very few women, and here we are in 2019, and they're about the same number. So, you know, if we don't get more women running for public office and winning, we're not going to change the dynamic at the local level and at the state level.
We haven't even mentioned the wage gap yet.
Oh, no,
The gender
exactly.
gap. Is that going to be mentioned at the legislature this year?
Oh,
again?
yes, it
Of
will.
course.
It will come up again. The minimum wage as well as the equal pay for women will definitely come up again. The governor has been high on these 2 issues because that's one way to get people out of poverty. And I think that our legislature needs to realize that we are an impoverished state, and in order to do that, we've got to make some rules and regulations and laws that will bring people out of poverty, and including giving them better pay and better jobs.
On this list, Louisiana ranks very low. Women, life expectancy at birth, 47th worst. Women in poverty, 49th.
Yes, right.
So women in Louisiana are in trouble, according to this survey.
Yes.
So again, it's not what are we going to think about doing about it, what will we make happen?
Exactly.
You know, we're missing big ideas focused on solutions. And part of my frustration is that we don't talk about solving problems. We don't talk about investing in education and healthcare to sort of change how the trends look. And so, you know, we've been 50th for a long time. And one of the things I'm concerned about is that we don't have big ideas. We don't think long term. We seem very happy to be stuck at 50th. and until people get mad about being 50th, we're going to stay exactly where we are.
Okay, would this make people maybe turn up the mad factor a little bit?
I'm hoping so, because even at RPCC right now, we're offering all of these different technical programs just so that we can try to get people to get more involved into the workforce, because we have so many people out there that's just not involved in trying to better themselves. So hopefully that can help the socioeconomic status that we're dealing with.
And you can't say it's a lack of training that's not out there. The opportunities are there, especially when you look at the fact that we have Jump Start in high school now, encouraging young people to look at the entire job market and where they fit, what is their niche, being able to give them the opportunity to take classes at high school, move on to the 2-year colleges or even to 4-year to be able to get into that pathway. So we've got the opportunities out there. It's a matter of convincing them that that's the path for them.
Well, I'd like to disagree. I think we've got opportunities in some high schools, but we have not consistently and thoughtfully invested across the board and across some of our rural parishes, which are just dying on the vine.
I agree with that.
I would say Shreveport, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, some of our bigger cities have more opportunities. But we're leaving out the whole rural area. You know, we talk about equal pay, we talk about raising the minimum wage, and we've been talking about it for the last, I don't know, decade or so since you've been in the legislature. You know, I will give Governor Edwards some credit for trying to raise these issues, but until the business community sees the need to invest in families, to invest in young people getting jobs and creating opportunities for people to get a livable wage, we're going to be stuck at 50. Just look at the United Way Alice report. Half the population of Louisiana is struggling.
A paycheck away from
from disaster. And if that doesn't get your attention, nothing will.
And one thing that I think is a huge factor here that people don't talk about enough is the fact that the exodus of people, 11,000 per year, that leave Louisiana to find other opportunities instead of staying here or growing here. We're a population that's in decline, it seems like.
And we have to continually look at diversifying our workforce and our opportunities for young people. But, you know, as Melissa just said, in the rural areas, you know, we don't even have broadband in the rural areas. You know, we're trying to get something there so our kids in school can't even get involved in things that kids in the cities do.
What's one thing that we can make happen at the legislature this session, do you think? I know you try.
Well, I think if you raise minimum wage, it would go a long way towards financial sustainability.
Is there hope of that happening?
Probably not.
Right.
Okay.
But we have to keep talking about it.
We have to keep being persistent and putting that awareness out there, because the majority of people in our state want to see this happen. It's unfortunately the people who are in the legislature who hold it back. And I can't understand that, because it's more about putting their numbers on a scorecard rather than looking at what's best for the state. And that's so unfortunate.
Well, the part that bothers me, I want to get one plug in here. Not only are we 50th for women, we are 50th for children, we are 50th for families. You know, Louisiana has a long way to go, and we won't get there unless we start.
And even when we're talking about the healthcare component, when we have a campus in Plaquemine, and when I'm going to get ready to give these students an opportunity to go to these externships, there's no hospital.
There's nothing there.
I still have to bring them back to the Baton Rouge area. So not only that am I looking at the healthcare disparities that we have in the area. You have the issue with education in that area too, in the Plaquemine River Parish type of area. So we raise more to raise the bar.
Keep after it,
We've just got to keep pushing the buttons and keep pushing them hard for people to understand that it's needed.
Thanks for doing that. Thanks for being here.
Yes.
All of you so much.
Great. Thank you.
A family's life turned upside down. The cause, an addiction to opioids. We look at their struggle to go on. After a working wife and mother of 3 children was injured and got hooked, and in no time at all gave up everything to keep getting high. Tyler Roach enjoying a little fun at work with his 4-year-old son Kemper. From the outside, the father-son moment is loving, cute, but the journey to what looks normal is filled with struggle, pain, and drug abuse.
A car accident, and the doctors prescribed her pain medication, and from there, once the doctors finally released her and cut her off, she's went to the street buying drugs.
Roach says legal painkillers given to his former wife for a serious back injury led to the spiral that turned their happy, comfortable life upside down.
And going as far as draining all our bank accounts, I mean, I wound up getting my vehicles repossessed and wound up losing everything in the end. It's horrible. Just a life no one wants to be in. I mean, it's just a terrible feeling knowing, that everything you work for all your life and, that someone that you love can fall off and, it just cause complete misery in family.
The misery continuing as Tyler and his fiancée watch Kemper's every move, hoping the drugs his mother took before he was even born won't cause him even more pain as he continues to grow. The small boy is one of thousands of children born every year opioid exposed. Roach tried everything he could to save his marriage, to save his wife, sending her to rehab, even having her committed when she threatened suicide. But eventually, he had no choice. He had to choose to save the children from their own mother. These drugs caused her to just walk away from the family?
Yes, pretty much. She wound up going to jail from DUIs. She got 4 DUIs and went to jail. And that's when that was my breaking point, when I finally was able to get full custody of the kids and get them away from it and get her away. And when she got out of jail, she went right back to it. She went right back to the drugs. When he was born, the first night, they brought him in and I was going to sleep with him. And he was so irritable and just, out of it. He screamed and cried until they had to come take him. And, that's when I realized that, she had made a big mistake.
Kemper, who was born in 2014, showed all the signs of exposure. He was jittery, cried constantly, and was kept in the hospital for 11 days after his birth. He's growing, thriving, but delayed. He didn't speak until he was 2 years old and has behavioral problems.
It's difficult, but also it's not difficult because, he's my son and I love him, and no matter what, I'll work with him as long as it takes.
A child that is born opioid exposed, on reporting, we're getting it about 1 every 15 minutes, so 4 an hour, 100 a day.
Jack Harang is one of the lead attorneys in a group called the Opioid Justice Team, now filing suit on behalf of the families and in particular the children born exposed to opioids in the state of Louisiana. The lawsuit covering all children under the age of 18 who were born with neonatal abstinence syndrome, or NAS.
That's just a number that's been diagnosed. I think by most reasonable sources, that's probably 50% of the children that are born with the problem. And then there's probably another large black hole of children that are either born after the mother has let them withdraw inside of her, or they've been just not reported. Of 75 to 100,000 babies are born a year, to double that.
Babies like Kemper who come into the world with huge challenges the day they take their first breath, and possibly for the rest of their lives.
There's a genetic change that's going on in the brain, or that affects the brain. And that is now extending out the effects of that. We're seeing in the studies that came out of Australia and elsewhere that's extending out to the age 15 now, and that's only because that's as far as we can tell.
Harang and his team are targeting big pharma giants: Purdue Pharma, McKesson Corporation, Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen, Teva Pharmaceuticals, Cephalon, Johnson & Johnson, Janssen Pharmaceuticals, Endo Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, Activus, and Watson Pharma. The class action suit filed last month in St. Tammany Parish is seeking damages for injuries, pain, and suffering of all the children in Louisiana and the U.S. suffering because of exposure to opioids.
The companies that marketed it and produced it and knew it was dangerous.
The suit alleges drug companies knew opioids were highly addictive and worked to hide the truth. Lawyers are seeking money to cover the children's future treatments, the medical attention needed, and also funding needed to build a healthcare system to deal with the issue that hundreds of thousands of children could battle for decades.
People can become addicted to drugs that the doctor prescribes later in life. That's an addiction. But these children are born with a problem that there may or may not ever be a cure for. The cure may be the solution, and the cure may only be in preventing the exposure in utero.
Harang says the lawsuit is very different from a claim filed against Big Tobacco on behalf of all 50 states, smokers, and their families.
To start with, these babies aren't states, they aren't counties, they aren't hospitals, they aren't cities. They're living, breathing human beings, and they're being born every minute. And every day there's an entire new group of children that are being born with the same exposures, the same problems, sometimes worse, sometimes less, but they're going to be born with them. The problem can't be dealt with by just throwing out money to somebody, because if the money gets thrown out, as we saw in tobacco and a lot of other cases, people are going to spend the money.
And if that happens, the children will be victimized again.
What we're proposing and we're hoping to get done is a process of having a trust either run through the government or run independently, so that these kids that are not just here today, but the ones who are going to be here for the next year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, until the access to addictive drugs during a pregnancy is going to be eliminated.
But until then, and even after a solution to end the opioid epidemic, steps must be taken to keep it from reoccurring.
First, it starts with education. The young men and women, because can be transmitted. The problem can be transmitted later on, both sexes. But the education that this is going to happen if you continue to take opioids or you choose to take opioids during your pregnancy. A large number of my class, which is a pretty big number, they didn't realize that they were exposing their child to something that was dangerous. they didn't know that they were exposing that child. It was something that was going to pass on past the time the baby was born. And that's, I think, a very important thing. And we're finding that that education is a hard thing to get done.
And Tyler believes better education could have made a difference in his family's lives. But regardless, he knows he has to do what's in the best interest of Kemper and his other children.
These drug companies make billions of dollars, I'm sure, a year. More awareness and offer treatment, counseling, for people that do get addicted.
Now, we reached out to all the drug companies listed in the lawsuit filed by the Opioid Justice Team. The Healthcare Distribution Alliance issued a joint statement on behalf of several of the drug companies that said, in part, the misuse and abuse of prescription opioids is a complex public health challenge that requires a collaborative and systemic response that engages all stakeholders. Given our role, the idea that distributors are responsible for the number of opioid prescriptions written defies common sense and lacks understanding of how the pharmaceutical supply chain actually works and is regulated. Those bringing lawsuits would better be served by addressing the root causes rather than trying to direct blame through litigation.
And now on a lighter, beautiful note, what do two of the world's top opera singers have in common? Both studied at LSU School of Music under the guidance of Robert Grayson.
Both recently performed at LSU's Union Theater in a sort of homecoming. Here's a look.
There's this element in the night, in the darkness, of looking up in wonder. And I think that's a very magical time. Opera is a very special art form because it combines everything. I mean, you have singing, you have drama, theater, you have orchestra, you have costumes, you have a tremendous sense of fantasy and of a world that people come into a theater to experience. And I feel like that's really special. I grew up singing. My mother was a very gifted singer who asked all my sisters sing, my aunts all sing. So I'm very fortunate that I've had a very musical upbringing.
Lisette's mother was my student, and so probably when Lisette was 6 or 8, she was hanging around at some rehearsals. Rebecca, her mother, brought Lisette to sing for me when she was in high school. And so I remember that from our meeting. It was in this room, and she sang a little bit for me, and I said, well, I would love to work with you this fall.
He took me under his wing as a student, as an undergraduate at LSU, and has guided me ever since. After LSU, I did the Met competition the last year of my undergrad, and I won first place. And I was invited immediately to come into the Met's Young Artist program. And essentially, you move to New York City and you begin studying as a young artist at the Met, which is that you're there every single day, and you're there for 3 years, doing only that. And that's exactly what I did.
She has a beautiful voice. She's very intelligent. She's very diligent, hard worker. She has a really giving stage presence to where, when I see her perform on stage, I believe everything she says. I never think she's thinking about singing. I always feel like she's really involved in the drama.
When I watch theater now, even when I watch films, I try to really see what I can learn from the actors that move me. What is that actor doing that I'm reacting to? How is that actor relating to me as an audience member? Then I try my best to bring that on stage. But the difference with opera is that we have to sing that. We don't get to speak it. We don't get the liberty of choosing how fast and when to say our lines. And I think that a lot of times, the best thing to do is to just trust that the music speaks for itself. You don't have to add any extra ingredients because it's all there, but you also have to be open and honest. And that's scary on stage.
And one of my favorite duets is from Gounod's Romeo and Juliet. And there's a love duet in the final act that's a beautiful piece, and I thought it would be perfect for the two of us.
I didn't know that piece before. I'd never looked at it. I looked at it, but I'd never performed it. So it's a first-time duet. It's a role that actually I've dreamt of singing for a long time, and I haven't had the chance to do it yet. So to get to sing the gorgeous love duet from Romeo is already a blessing. But to do it with Paul Groves is really nice. I'm really lucky that we're doing the Traviata duet with Brandon, because Traviata is a very special opera to me. My mom sang it when I was younger, and so I always have this very, very deep connection to Traviata because of my mom.
And I remember hearing Lisette sing for the first time and just being absolutely blown away, not only by her singing, but also by her ability to capture a character. It's inspiring to be on stage with her. And if she's not the best storyteller in opera, she's certainly absolutely one of the best. She just always gives absolutely dynamic and gripping performances.
I think that the aria that I'm doing from I Masnadieri, Verdi's I Masnadieri, that aria, right now at this point in my life, is very significant because I'm going to be doing that role as my debut at La Scala this coming season, in just a few months. And La Scala is the crown jewel of the operatic world, and that's the role that I'm going to be doing. So I feel in a lot of ways a sense of needing to honor this piece and needing to honor this role because I'm getting that chance to do it for the first time in Milan. To get an invitation to even sing there ever as an American is a huge deal, and so I feel very, very grateful.
She is one of the finest singers that we have. She has a beautiful voice, beautiful sound, and she's expressive, a marvelous actor, and she's everything that an opera singer should be, I think. I think these two kind of wonderful homegrown singers here from LSU with the students of the LSU orchestra. I mean, this, and plus other students who are singing roles in the performance as well. I mean, for them to have an opportunity with these two alums to come back and then interact with them, it's a real giving back.
I haven't actually sung at LSU since I was a student. So it's nice to have a chance to come back, and I'm visiting and I'm a guest on the campus, but I also feel like I'm at home because it's where I went to school, it's where I graduated from. Everything that has ever happened in my life has pointed in this direction, has given me an advantage of some kind, and that's whatever you want to call it. I like to call it a blessing, but it's also, I'm just glad that at some point in my life I was able to take all those blessings and those gifts and work on making them better so that I could have an opportunity at all to sing for a living, So I'm very, 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 very lucky and happy.
What an incredible voice. Now you can see the entire broadcast, A Starry Night, next Wednesday at 7. That's March 13th on LPB.
Wow, she is absolutely amazing. Well, that is our show for this week. For everyone here at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
I'm Natasha Williams.
Have a great week, and remember, this is the state we're in.
Sometimes providing power means lending a hand. So Energy sponsors free tax return assistance and financial education to help our customers take control of their future. Together, we power life. Energy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.